You can't let the critics and the naysayers get in the way of your dreams.
Well, we've also been hearing the terms obstruction of justice, and also the word impeachment has been thrown around ever since the news surfaced of an alleged memo sent by now former FBI Director James Comey, suggesting President Trump asked him to back off of an investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. But what do those terms really mean? Is it really warranted? So we have attorney Rocco Cipparone in our newsroom, and we also have Drexel University School of Law professor David Cohen here in our studio so we can get some context on this. But Rocco, I want to start with you, and let's start with obstruction of justice, because that is being put out there. But it looks like obstruction of justice is very hard to prove.
It's a very difficult crime to prove because at first blush, it's a broad statute. It covers a large manner of sins if you read the language. But it really has three things a prosecutor has to prove: that the person corruptly attempted to obstruct justice or actually obstructed justice, but the due administration of justice. And I can break that down, Alex, but there are three important elements, and they seem broad, but they're not as broad as they seem.
Well, it sounds like some are specific. You have the obvious ones. For example, if you destroyed some evidence or you threatened someone or something like that. But then it's the broader ones, like trying to influence an investigation, and that's where it gets kind of tricky?
It gets tricky there because the Supreme Court of the United States has said that simply attempting to obstruct an FBI investigation in a vacuum and in and of itself is not enough. There has to be a proceeding in progress, such as a grand jury proceeding, and the person has to know that that proceeding is in progress, and it's got to be their specific intent. That's what corruptly means, to in fact interfere with that grand jury proceeding, for example. So to prove that the person had the state of mind to know that that proceeding existed, to know that that grand jury investigation existed, if it did exist, and we don't know that here, and in fact attempted or intended to obstruct it. So that's going to be, you know, the thorny issue here.
Yeah, proving someone's state of mind sounds really hard to prove. But even when you think about it, when I've heard this debate that's been going on, and some attorneys have said, look, saying to a prosecutor, because we're talking about the memo where Comey said that Trump said, hey, why don't you let the guy off? Some attorneys have said, I've said that to prosecutors before, it doesn't mean you take it seriously. What? You just throw it out there. Would you agree with that?
Well, yes and no. I mean, look, I'm a criminal defense attorney and I was a federal prosecutor, so of course I say to prosecutors all the time, look, here's the situation, you should not prosecute my client. But that's different. That's a conversation between lawyers about the appropriate disposition of an investigation or a prosecution. That's in a different context. So I don't agree that that context applies here. If the president was attempting to influence, and we don't know that, of course, the words are going to be parsed very carefully in the full context, but if he was attempting to influence an FBI investigation, that's step one. But the second step has to be, we have to know and find out whether there was a grand jury investigation pending and whether the president knew it, because that's going to be the key to this issue.
But you are right. We don't know that much yet. Yet McCain has said some interesting words. He's already comparing this to Watergate. This has been thrown out there: impeachment, obstruction of justice. We just wanted to know and break down, what does that mean, and does that really apply? But it sounds like it's premature. More facts will be coming out, and we'll keep you guys updated. So thank you, Rocco, and thank you, Professor.
Thanks, Alex. Good to see you.
Thank you.
7:39.